it was just amazing. I loved it. Let me tell you. And Robin Williams, such a doll. He's such a doll. And then of course, Face Off is on Netflix, and you were like, God, that movie. I love Face Off. I love that movie. It's like a guilty pleasure. That and Con Air, like my Nicolas Cage guilty pleasure.
Travolta and Nicolas Cage together.
It's like
perfection.
Like you can see the end of the corners of the scene just being chewed. I mean, by the end of the movie, it's like after a dog got a hold of like a piece of paper and was gumming it for hours. It's like, it's all wet and drippy and just looks like you can see through it.
I was reading a review by Mike Nelson from Mystery Science Theater about that movie, and he was talking about just the logo, the Face Off. It's like face/off. Like, why is there a slash? Why is there a slash between face and off?
Speaking of that, did you see the trailer for the 30th anniversary live tour for Mystery Science Theater 3000?
No, I didn't.
So we know Jonah is of course the new Gizmonics worker for he's the new guy who works at Gizmonic Institute. The trailer for the 30th anniversary live tour shows a guy zipping up a red jumpsuit, and at the end, it's Joel. Joel is joining Jonah for the 30th anniversary live tour of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Well, I would go see that. That would be cool. They did it a couple of times in the past. They had done it like way back when the show was still on, and I would have loved to have seen one of those old ones.
Now, what's really cool when you see it, what's really cool is Joel has a patch on the arm of the jumpsuit, and it's a it's like 3 patches. One says Mikhail, one says Jonah, whatever his last name is in the show, and the other one says Nelson. So he's got a patch. He's wearing a patch for each host of the show on his arm, and I think that's really freaking cool.
No, I'm torn between, like, definitely the new guy is my third favorite.
Well, yeah, of course he's third, but you're tied for first with Mike and Joel.
Yeah, it's hard to say because like they have 2 totally different comedy styles when you watch those episodes, and some of my favorite ones are from Joel, and some of my favorite ones are from the Mike Nelson years. It's weird that the whole cast of that show changed, like from the first episode that aired on like Comedy Central,
right,
a long time ago, to the last episode on Sci-Fi Channel. The whole cast had changed to a completely whole different cast.
Yeah.
So I mean, that show is kind of meant to. It show's known for evolving characters around and stuff. So it doesn't bother me that they've got a new host. I like those new episodes. I was one of the.
I like them too.
I'm wearing the shirt right now. I was one of the backers for them to bring it back, I like that. And it is getting another season on Netflix too.
It is. And I like it. Joel had that kind of like dry, sleepy type of humor. Like when you would watch him, he'd seem like almost like he was half asleep.
Yeah,
when he was talking. And Mike was a little more awake and more animated.
Well, yeah. Well, and Mike Nelson had a more, it seemed like almost more sarcastic.
Yeah.
Since there's one, like the one before. The Joel's last episode, I think, is Mitchell. I think that's the movie they're watching, and that's when they're bringing Mike Nelson in as the new host. And Mike Nelson in that episode is helping Dr. Forrester and Frank pack up the lab and like inventory everything. He like works for a temp company, and that's where they get Mike from. And before they start the movie, they tell Joel what the movie is. It's Mitchell starring Joe Don Baker. And Mike Nelson's like in the background of the scene, and he has a clipboard, and he just turns around and smiles and goes, "You guys watch Joe Don Baker movies?" And it's really funny. Like he's just like totally ripping on him and laughing at him for doing it, and it's one of the funniest things ever. It's like Mike's sense of humor is pretty subtle. It's pretty dry too, just like sarcastic.
I love that they did bring it back, and yeah, Jonah's great. Jonah is great. Of course, everybody if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know how I feel about Felicia Day. That's my mirror universe wife. If there's a mirror universe out there, Patton Oswalt. I'm still very much not in his camp after, when
he doesn't bother me on there, but I mean, the one thing I noticed is they put the commercial breaks in, like the old show. They put these weird breaks in the new ones with
like
Patton Oswalt
on Netflix.
And it's like, I don't know why. It made me wonder if maybe they were thinking they were going to get it on cable or something, and they put commercial breaks in.
Right.
And then when they did it on Netflix, they just left it in that way because that's kind of the way the old show would do their breaks. They would.
Right. Yeah. Like my kids have been watching this show on Netflix. I think it's called like A Little Help with Carol Burnett.
Yeah. I saw a commercial for it.
It's kind of like Kids Say the Darndest Things, but it's Carol Burnett, and she brings either like someone from the audience or a celebrity on, and they have an issue, and the kids try to help them out. But at the end of the show, what I really like is Carol Burnett's like, if you want more of the show, just sit there. Don't do anything. Netflix is going to play the next episode automatically. So I kind of like that, and Carol Burnett's, she's a comedy legend. And I like that she's able to do that. She does that. I mean, she's still I had to explain to my kids because she in this show she still does the tugging on her earlobe at the end of every episode. So I had to explain to my kids why she tugged on her earlobe, because in the Carol Burnett show that was her way of saying hello or good night to her kids.
I think they show her old show on MeTV. Show them the old show.
Yeah, that was a good show. That was a really good show. Carol Burnett, and she still has it. She still has that wit to her, which I think is fantastic. Netflix is really, it's so interesting to watch how they kind of evolved from, hey, you can get DVDs to you can get Blu-rays to, you know what, screw it, we're just going to have a whole streaming service and everything's going to be on there. And what they take off, what they put back on.
They've got some pretty decent, in-house, Netflix original type.
They do. They
stuff.
Really do.
Some good horror movies they put out recently. I think they either bought them or licensed them or something, because they're foreign horror movies, but they got the Netflix original logo.
On it. Well, they did. They had they got the Godzilla movie, which was fantastic. I thought it was a great film. They've got Lost in Space.
Lost in Space was pretty good.
Yeah. Of course, everybody knows I love Santa Clarita Diet and Orange is the New Black.
Lost in Space got a second season, by the way, which I'm glad. Because they set it up perfectly for it to be more like the TV show in the next season. So I was hoping, man, if they get another season, this could be really good.
Maybe we'll get the giant spiders.
I don't think so. This is actually I don't want to ruin it for you because you want to see it, but if something happens that sets it up perfectly to do the way the TV show was, where they were literally lost in space.
Hey, I love you, wife.
With the whole crew.
I love you, wife.
I think I didn't the Dr. Smith, the woman that plays Dr. Smith. It seemed.
Isn't that Parker Posey?
Yeah, it seemed like it was kind of hard to read. You kind of instantly, with the old guy that played Dr. Smith on the show, you kind of instantly tell that he was just a Weasley conniving asshole. And it was kind of hard to tell where she was coming from with her Dr. Smith. So that I think it'll probably be more kind of defined next season, hopefully.
Right. But Netflix is doing some great stuff. We got all the Marvel series on there, and
Punisher season 2 is coming up soon.
That's going to be great. It's just for anybody who's a TV or movie aficionado. This is just a great time. Amongst everything else that's going on in this freaking crazy-ass world, it's just nice that we can sit at home and watch something. Like my wife the other night, she's like, I wanted you to watch this movie with me because I started watching it and I fell asleep, and she's like, okay. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll watch this with you. And apparently it's a 2014 or 2012 film, and it's called Bound by Flesh, and it's about the Hilton Siamese twins. That were paraded through vaudeville and in the old sideshows and things of that nature. And it's a really interesting look at their lives, because these are Siamese twins whose mother didn't want them, abandoned them. So basically, the mother sold the children
to a circus
to this woman, who ended up parading them around in the circus. as an attraction, and they would they had to learn how to play piano and sing and all this other stuff. And really a look at how their entire lives they were in some type of show. So when they got older in life and the sideshows started drying, the sideshows kind of started dying out, and then vaudeville started dying out because of the the oncoming of cinema, how they were not able to kind of stay up with the times, and they ended up working in a grocery store in North Carolina, and ended up dying at the age of 60 from Hong Kong flu. And one sister died, and then the other sister died 4 days later. So, and that's, to me, that's really eerie because, especially as a Siamese twin, your sister dies, you're attached to your dead sister for 4 days.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy. But they talk a lot about how, Harry Houdini had they were not allowed to talk to anybody. They were not allowed to talk to anybody. They were not allowed to go out. They were not allowed to socialize. And they would talk about how Harry Houdini would actually sneak behind them and whisper to them little things, about be true to yourself, always remember who you are, things like these little bits of advice that Harry Houdini would just slip them without anybody knowing. It was really interesting, and how they had signed a contract. They signed a contract with their foster mom's sister's husband that basically gave him complete control over their entire lives. And they had to go to court to say, look, we don't know what we signed. They just said sign it. We're adults, even though we're Siamese twins. We are adults. We're human adults. We can make our own decisions. And how that basically became the worst thing for them, because once that happened and they got emancipated, they didn't know how to handle money. They didn't know what to do. They both had done publicity stunt marriages, and but it's a really interesting movie. I mean, they even talk about Todd Browning's Freaks, because they were in the movie Freaks by Todd Browning, that classic black and white film.
Yeah, they
were in that movie. It's so surreal. And I sat there looking at it because I used to love that show, Freak Show, that was on TLC or something like that. I just love hearing those stories, and reading those stories about the sideshows, and Barnum and Bailey going out there, and P.T. Barnum finding the so-called freaks, quote unquote freaks.
That was a weird time in entertainment history. Just that whole era of sideshow attractions in vaudeville.
If you were heavily tattooed like half the world is today, you were in the freak sideshow. If you were a female and you were tattooed, you were in the sideshow, because that was not heard of. Females did not have tattoos.
Yeah, that was a weird time, man. Old freak shows are weird.
Shaquille O'Neal, with as tall as Shaquille O'Neal is, he would have been in the sideshow because he was so tall. If you were taller than the normal average man, you were in the sideshow. It's just so it is a weird time, and then seeing how we kind of evolved. What's happening up there, man?
I saw I was looking this up. The Jim Rose Freak Show. I got to see that, or at least a part of it, when at Lollapalooza, one of the side stage, they had Jim Rose's Freak Show, and he had all the classic bits, like the sword swallowing and shit like that, and guys picking up stuff with rings in their ears and nipples and all kinds of weird shit. And man, it was pretty crazy to see people eating stuff, glass.
Eating glass,
sideshow tricks,
those weird things that people do, and it's just manipulation. So I thought, if anybody wants to watch that, it's Bound by Flesh on Netflix. It's really, really an interesting story about these twins. It's really, really good. I highly recommend it. It played, I think it was a Cannes movie, it played at Cannes. But as far as a documentary film, and I wish, because it was a 2012, so I don't know. Some of the people that they interviewed on that show were actually people that ran sideshows. One guy was 80-something when they did the movie, and he used to promote sideshows. I'm just sitting there going, God, I would love to have him on this show. because the stories he could tell.